Now you won the you're back in the X Division scene. You're back in Impact. It's been a while now. How do you feel being there, and what kind of changes have you seen since your first go around full time with the company?
Wow. Big question. Changes. I guess it's ever changing here. So I started in 2003, and I left full time in '09. Would come back here and there. So I've literally been there for every regime, from day one. So I've seen all the changes. I've seen the ups, the downs, the good, the bad. And it's no secret right now. It's a rebuilding phase. And it's basically to gain the consumer confidence back that may have been lost through past regimes and past mistakes. I think that's the number one thing that we're trying to accomplish right now.
What kind of changes do you see in the X Division? I know you have this match at Bound for Glory coming up, and it's kind of like an amalgamation of X Division past, present, and even future a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the story being played there, where you've got X Division veterans and myself and Petey. We kind of pioneered the whole thing, and then you've got the next crop with the Desmond Xavier and Garza Jr., who I think is more than just an X Division wrestler, and same goes for Matt Sydal. And I think I really do truly think the world of Trevor Lee. I think he's one of the guys that you should watch and see where he ends up in the next 5 to 10 years. I think he's so talented, and it's crazy to think that he's still in his 20s. So if you take all that into account, I think it's a bright X Division future, and it kind of goes back to when the guys, myself, Petey Williams, and Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, we all were hired. Not because we were big names or we were popular or anything like that, but we were brought in specifically because we knew how to wrestle a style that was popular on the independent.
Now, you're also working as an agent, from what I understand. Is that true?
Yes.
So how does that differ from your first go-around?
Well, that is probably the biggest change. Whereas 2003, I was 20 years old and a hungry young kid, and now I'm part of the creative team and trying to construct this show and steer it in the path that we see fit right now. And balancing the two is something that I am kind of used to. About 5 years ago is when I started transitioning into more of an office role and whatnot. So it is a struggle, I guess. It's a balancing act, but something I do enjoy.
What are your thoughts on Impact moving kind of their operations to Canada in light of Anthem? They run out of Toronto, so you're seeing a lot more of a Canadian-based thing. And I mean, I've noticed a lot more high-profile independent shows running out of Ontario as well.
I think that the Toronto, Ontario independent scene, I go back to that scene, 2006. There was a group there, UWA Hardcore, and I would be there every month and kind of branched off into other groups down there. I mean, it's always been such a hotbed for pro wrestling. And I think that being Bound for Glory, being the biggest show of the year, being the biggest pay-per-view that we put out, and the culmination of so much that's gone on over the years, I think it was a decision that made let's try to make this thing a little special, take it on the road, and see what we get.
So I know that you've got a friendship with Jeff Jarrett. His situation is a little bit complicated. What do you look for the resolution to this be? I know that the name's changed back from Global Force to Impact, and Jeff's kind of taking some time right now.
Yeah, Jeff is a very good friend of mine, sort of a mentor figure and whatnot. And I'm not privy to any of the details and all that stuff. I just hope the best for him, and hopefully he's back sooner than later.
This is far from the first time you've worked with Jeff. I know that you did stuff with Global Force. I know you did stuff with Rinka King, and of course you all worked together in TNA before. Was this something that you looked at as a real opportunity? Because I know you're somewhat familiar. It's hard to say familiar with Impact, considering all the changes, even the roster and stuff. But what kind of situation did you look at when you two came over from previously Global Force?
Right. I think that it kind of presented itself. I think all the pieces kind of fell in place, and the company wanting to go a different route. A new company had bought the Impact, and I think that to them it was probably a no-brainer to go with the guy to steer the ship that steered it before and successfully. So I think that this all kind of was a whirlwind for me. I was in a tough spot in my career early this year, trying to figure out where I was going to do and where I was going to go. And part of the reason that I chose this route was my friendship with Jeff and the prospect of turning things around, basically, and starting from scratch and trying to build something different.
There was word that you had a WWE offer on the table ahead of joining Impact again. Is that true?
Yeah, I spent close to a month down there in NXT, and it went very well, very well.
So what motivated you to make this switch?
I'm 35. I've got 2 kids, and I've got a wife that take precedent over anything and everything in my life, career, but professional life, and relocating them was something that I just could not do at this point in my life. If you'd asked me 10, 15 years ago, it would have been probably a way different story.
So is that going to be exclusively a coaching role, like a player coach role that we see a lot of guys in, or would you have been vying for a spot in NXT, main roster, things like that?
It was presented as a player coach role.
Interesting. And we see them attacking a market that you have attacked previously with Ring Ka King. I remember watching those shows and some of the crowd reactions to that. How do you think they're doing in that with Jinder Mahal and the Singh brothers?
I think they're doing great. I think that the key to attacking a market like that is finding a star that people can relate to over there. And I think that I heard they're going over there for 2 shows coming up at the end of the year, which to me is just that is the utmost importance when it comes to tackling that market, is actually going there and actually meeting those people and face to face and showing them that you care about them and they're the real deal. And we tried that with the Ring Ka King. That's something that we did 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, almost 6 years ago now, which is hard. It's hard to believe it's been that long.
Yeah, it is. And it just tells you that for that long, the first time that I went to India for Impact was 2005, and I got back from that trip, and I remember I had a conversation with Dixie, and I said, we've got to do something over there. This is something that we would need to capitalize on. Obviously, it didn't happen until, like you said, 6 years ago. And that was a Jeff project. That was a whole Jeff Jarrett project, Ring Ka King, and in March we went over there. I believe May we went over there and did TV tapings and whatnot. So, I think that the big problem that's going to happen in India is getting this fan base to spend their dollars. I think that it's an emerging economy. The middle class is growing more than ever. But to kind of work their brains to think that they've got to pay for this entertainment that's not Bollywood and it's not cricket, that's going to be the tough sell.
I mean, I know that there's at least some interest there because throughout all the websites I've worked for over the years, I see plenty of traffic coming from there. I see plenty of our commenters from there. I see plenty of our interaction from there.
Huge. Yeah, it's huge. The social media. I mean, everybody in that country practically has a phone, has a cell phone.
Yeah.
But it's just translating those people to pay for something that they are not used to paying for.
That's a very good point. So when you were with WWE in that brief period, this is right when they were or right before they were starting to really get into that. Did anybody bend your ear or maybe say, "Hey, you've got a little bit of experience over here. You did Ring Ka King. What are we looking at?"
Yeah, actually 2-3 years ago, I had some talks with them about the market. So it's something I guess they've been trying to do for a while now.
Now, back to Impact, you all have had a big roster turnover, and you've had some very, really interesting names come in. A lot of guys that people in America have previously seen on Lucha Underground and the new team of LAX. Who are some of your favorite additions to this roster that just came since this regime change?
Top of the list, I guess, would for me personally would be Desmond Xavier. I think there's so much talent in that guy, and he's still so young and hungry. And this is his first shot at a television product, and he's now learning a different aspect of the game, and trying to learn how to balance the independence and work in a TV style. And I think that he's meshed perfectly. LAX, I think, are amazing. And Johnny Impact goes for himself. I mean, he speaks for himself. His track record. I mean, he's a star. He's a stud. And this name didn't come along with this regime, but Eli Drake. I think that he is a bona fide star. And putting the ball in his hands. He's done an amazing job. I think there's still a few weeks of TV left from the last tapings where he really starts to come into his own as a performer and as a world champion. So I'm proud of all those guys.
One of my primary criticisms about TNA, or it was TNA at the time, was that they found a couple of diamonds in EC3 and Eli Drake, and for a few months after they found success with those guys, it seemed like everybody they hired, they wanted to be exactly like them. They wrestled like them. They tried to act like them. That isn't the case with the hires now. You've got, like I said, Ortiz and Santana, Desmond Xavier, Garza. I've seen Phantasma, Tejano, Pagano. There are tons of just different. It's different. That's the thing that stands out to me is just the word different.
Correct, and I think that's basically what we've been trying to accomplish here is different. And on top of that, all of those names that you mentioned are all studs that can go in that ring.
Yeah. And
it comes down to that. When you mix those guys in with anyone, you've got a good to great professional wrestling match. And I think that that's what we're trying to accomplish with these guys. And overall for the product is that deliver quality pro wrestling in the ring.
Yeah. Do you think King Mo and Stephan Bonner have lucked out that Jeff Jarrett isn't around right now, so he can't do the Double J Double MMA challenge?
That's funny. That would be good. That would be good, though.
I would love to see him try that one on Stephan Bonner. I'm very excited to see whatever that guy brings, because I thought he was a good fighter, good broadcaster, a very good personality. So that should be very interesting. I've really liked the angle going on with Bobby Lashley there. It's a fascinating angle.
It is, and I'm not a MMA aficionado, so it was all a learning curve to me in figuring out these guys and their accolades and whatnot. Obviously I knew of all of them, but just trying to figure out what their nuances were, and Steph and I had never met, so he's an interesting cat. He really is, and I think the stuff that aired on Thursday, I don't know if you saw the show, but Stephan and Moose going to the ATT facility and destroying their trophy case and whatnot. I thought it was really cool stuff. It's different. It really is. And I think that there's, like I said, there's a few more weeks left of twists and turns as we head into Bound for Glory.
Well, Sonjay, before we go, let us know what else you're looking forward to out of Bound for Glory this year.
I think I'm looking forward to everything. I think that first and foremost, I'm excited that we're hitting the road and bringing this big pay-per-view on the road to Ottawa at the Aberdeen Pavilion, November 5th, live on pay-per-view. We're doing 5 nights of television tapings following that pay-per-view. So anybody in that Ottawa area, come on down for a week of awesome wrestling. But watch Impact every Thursday on Pop as well.